this all relates to the last point here is interviews. We do not have a required interview process for your application with us. Some schools still will require interviews. Some schools will only require interviews if you get invited to an interview. And so the first thing I want to say is that all of what we have said has applied to those formal interviews as well, is that you need to be prepared. You need to think about how you're presenting yourself. I'm assuming that year, if you have a formal interview with the law school, it's going to be virtual. Even before this season of COVID, a lot of schools were moving towards virtual interviews anyways. And so think of your surroundings, think of what interactions you can prevent during that time. But don't panic about those interviews. Do your research, know your school, know yourself, and be prepared to answer their questions truthfully and honestly, and with self-reflection. I think is one of the biggest things that a lot of students don't prepare for, that Natalia hit on a while ago. For us, although we don't require interviews, what Natalia was getting at is what I'm going to say. Every interaction we have with you is an interview. Whether you're calling us, and you might not have ever thought about it before, but it might be the smallest thing, and you might be really frustrated because you're having problem getting a transcript to a school, or finding a very specific note about the process, a detail about the process. And so you're calling and you're frustrated, and you're just trying to get an answer, and maybe you don't get the answer you want. But even that little interaction can be really important with how you are going to exist and be as a student in law school one day. And so what I just like to prepare students for is every interaction you have with the law school, you need to be thinking of that as an interview, not just the formal ones, but also if we call you, it's not a bad idea not to memorize their numbers, but maybe to have an idea of what the area codes are of the law schools you're applying for. I can't tell you how many times a day in a week I call a student and they're annoyed because they're getting a call from an unknown number, and I get it. The number of unknown calls that we get these days is frustrating, but be prepared for that call to be with a law school representative and not just someone spamming your phone. And so my main point is that every interaction you have with a law school, even if they do formal interviews, all of the interactions you have with the law school is a time for them to interview you, is a time for them to reflect on who you are and who they are admitting to their law school.
So the flip side of that is that also, as you call law schools and you seek information from the law schools that you're applying to, you should also consider that you are interviewing them. Mm-hmm. So take stock in how you're treated when you call a law school, and who do they put you in contact with, and how easily is it to access information and connections with faculty or students or former students. Because a lot of times, as you're going through that application cycle and you're considering and you're weighing your options, it's easy to fall back into the kind of routine that I mentioned, looking at numbers, looking at rank. All of those things are really important. But how you were treated as an applicant is going to be likely a reflection of how you're going to be treated as a student. And so I know for me, it was really important, and I didn't realize it until I had an interaction with a school that I had very, high on my list of where I wanted to go, that I realized, oh, that's actually not how I want to be treated. So while we are interviewing you, you should also interview us and make sure that we are a good fit for you.
Absolutely. Thank you.